So, Nikki, if you'd like to take it away, we can begin.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Nikki. I am the membership director on our local board for New York State, Upstate, Canada East. And I'm gonna do a quick commercial before we get started. We need 2 people who would be willing to be on the board. So I'd like you to seriously consider a volunteer position we're looking for somebody who'd be interested in being a director at large and somebody who would be interested in being a professional development director. If you have any questions, you can email me or chat me afterwards. There's my commercial. Okay. I would like to introduce the speaker of our talk today. I'm very excited. We're going to talk about dealing with difficult people, and our expert today is Melissa. And Melissa is a graduate of Cazenovia College, where she earned her Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Interior Design. She's NCIDQ certified. She has lots of hobbies, including music, photography, traveling, art festivals, hiking, and reading. She's a collector of rainbows, which would be so cool to see sometime. She resides in Liverpool with her puppy, Willow, and her career has been extensive. So she's been with McClurg for 7 years doing residential remodeling projects. Before that, she did schools, K through 12 and higher education, and some healthcare. So let's welcome Melissa to share her expertise.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So I just wanted to maybe share some pointers and experience that I have experienced in my career as an interior designer. And when I first started to, I'm sorry, the chat came up. When I first started thinking about being an interior designer and I was starting to make the direction of my career path, I really wanted to avoid residential design, specifically because I just had a feeling that it was going to be more emotionally involved and difficult. And I was completely correct in that. So I avoided it for the first half of my career, and I was doing only commercial design. And with that type of position, it was very little turbulence. You're usually working with a school board or superintendent in the cases that I was working in, or possibly a business owner or some sort of board of directors. In any case, people weren't really that emotionally invested as they are in their home. I've been doing residential interior design for about 9 or 10 years now, and it's a completely different animal. And it's just very important to remember that these spaces are such intimate spaces, and you create these relationships with these people that I'm closer to some of my clients than I think that a lot of their family members are. I mean, I know more about them than a lot of people in their everyday life. And so with that comes also a lot of issues because they have a lot of trust in you. They see you as the expert. And then sometimes literally you're just like their punching bag. So they let some things out on you. So this past year, 2020, was probably the most difficult year I've ever experienced in my professional career. Difficult people in residential design is just a given. It's not always, it's not every client, but it definitely happens. But during something like a pandemic, everybody's more stressed, and that just means that it's possibly more taken out on you. So I just wrote down some notes and maybe some of my experiences and some tips and tricks that have helped me get through it, that hopefully can help somebody else. And then I figured maybe we can share some other tips and tricks or experiences or stories or have questions, that kind of thing. Sound good? So so this past year I had a couple of extra difficult projects and clients and situations happening to the point to where I actually reached out to a professional to look for some help. And he gave me one word of advice that is the best piece of advice I've ever gotten in my entire life. And it works for this professional, like client to designer relationship. I think it can work in personal relationships. It can work with your employer. But in any case, when someone is coming at you and they are upset about something and they just want to vent, and they may be correct, they may not be correct. In any case, the perfect answer I have found, it calms every single person down I've ever said this to, is 3 extremely simple words. I just say, I let them say their piece, wait a couple seconds and just say, I hear you. And then it's like, whew, you see like the stress and the anger and the upset just like leave their body. I hear you. It just is the best piece of advice I've ever heard. And that's all people want. They want to be heard. It doesn't mean you agree with them. It doesn't mean that you're giving in. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily correct or you're correct. It just means that, yes, you heard what they had to say, and then you'll follow up regarding whatever the situation is. So I would keep that in your back pocket anytime somebody comes to you with any kind of conflict. Listen to what they have to say and just tell them that that's what happened. You heard them. The other thing that I found when I first started doing this particular position is a lot of people would come to me with questions, and I wanted to answer right away. I felt like they wouldn't trust me. They wouldn't believe me if I didn't give them an answer right away. Whether it was like product knowledge or the price of something or something, how something was going to be built. I felt like, oh, they're not going to think I'm going to know what I'm talking about unless I answer right away. Now, and I found I got myself in trouble because I either made something up or I was incorrect or it was just too quick to answer. Now, a lot of times I'll just say, I'm not sure of that right now, but I'll look into it for you. And then I get back to them. And people are satisfied with that as long as you follow up. So these are super simple, basic things that may not even be specific to the interior design industry, but have helped me. I have a lot of married couples. That's probably 90% of my business. And sometimes they're on the same page and sometimes they agree. Oftentimes I have one partner who cares about the design, isn't in charge, and the other one just basically cares about the money. But more often than not, I have both people in the relationship who care about the design, care about the money, care about everything equally. But that doesn't mean that they agree on everything. So what I sort of play, I kind of joke around with my clients and I tell them, well, part of my job is playing marriage counselor, because I kind of am in that middle ping pong fight. And what I try to be really conscious of is never taking sides. So I never let on that I agree with one or the other. And what I always try to do is find a compromise that works for both parties. So, let's say it's like a flooring material that people are fighting over. I try to find out why this particular flooring is important to that person and why that flooring is important to this person, whether it's a color, a design, or a durability or a price. Pick that apart to the very basics and then find something that fits all of those categories. If that doesn't work, basically what I'll do is one of those people will win and get that item. And then we'll say, okay, well, so-and-so, you got this. Maybe we can do this idea that the other person has as a compromise. So you both get parts and pieces of what you wanted. So either way, it's a compromise. Either we come together and we find something that fits both of their needs and wants, or they get parts and pieces. This person will get this thing that they wanted and that person will get that thing. And then in the end, they're happy because they both feel like they won. Everything's about, it seems about winning, getting their way. I had a really, really difficult client that I worked for last summer, and we had installed some natural granite, and it was a very light color with gray veining. And I had gone over the seam placement with the client in person and on the phone, and sketched it out in front of them. But when it came time to install, and the seam was very visible, but even though we had warned them where it was, she flipped out like I've never seen someone. I mean, instantly started bawling and crying and screaming and ran out of the house, and like a toddler tantrum. So now, for like legal purposes and so that it's really in black and white, I am including a seam diagram in all my contracts. So that's less of an emotional tip and more of a, literal, we draw it out. This is what the seam is. You're going to see it. Because we ended up having to replace those countertops for that client. So that's a little something I've added. So as I'm designing for people, I always try to let them know and make them believe that they are in charge, or that is their ideas. I leave all of my personal opinions and my personal baggage or whatever, at home. And when I go there, even though behind the scenes, I am controlling everything, and in the end, it will likely be what I want, I let the clients think, and I literally will say, this is your house, you're in charge, whatever you want, I'm here to help you through it. People really like that. We are there for a month, 2 months, a year, whatever, designing, helping people. But they're the ones who are living there for 20 years or whatever. So I really want them to feel like they're in charge, they made the decisions, and they are going to be happy with the design. There's a couple of tips that I've learned through some sales training that really works. They're subtle and they're sort of work into the subconscious, but there's a thing called mirroring. So as I'm talking with clients and I'm trying to either convince them to go with me or convince them on a design or in some manner sell them on something, if someone is talking to you and they're leaning in, you mirror that and you lean in. If someone is leaning back sort of in a casual way, or they cross their legs, you cross the opposite, that kind of thing. It's not something somebody would pick up and go, what is she doing? Is she mirroring my movements? But it makes them feel more comfortable. And this could be true if, you're having a conflict and you have to sit down and have a meeting and go through it. Making the client feel more comfortable and feel more related to you is always going to suppress the situation and make things go smoother. So mirroring is a little trick.
That reminds me of that Office episode where Andy wants to take over to be number 2. That's like a perfect example of mirroring to the extreme.
Oh, really? I'll have to look that up. I'm doing tons of talking right now, but what I have found is, and I can talk, I have found that the less I talk, the easier things go. So, and that's not just for me, I'm saying in general, just listening and even having maybe some what people might consider uncomfortable silences really just gets people's real feelings and thoughts out. And again, just feeling like they're heard. So just sitting there and listening and maybe asking 1 or 2 pertinent questions, but some people just need to get it out. and they just sit there and you just nod your head and listen. And then usually people feel like they've gotten it off their chest and that they have someone to listen to or who's listened to them. And that usually really calms things down as well.
I find when you're listening, if you listen, if you do active listening where you're really listening to what they say, you need to look for the hidden need that they're trying to get you. It's not, you know, the color of the rug is wrong. It's this didn't fit my vision. How can we make it fit my vision? So if you do active listening, you can find that hidden need that the person actually needs to feel validated.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and there's some hidden things that are totally not obvious. Like there's some things that I like, let's say I'm working on a kitchen for somebody and I choose some things based on that and I show them and they have like this visceral reaction to something. And in my head, I'm thinking, what the heck? You know, this is like, why would you have that reaction? And it could be something where like after a little digging or listening, it's like PTSD from something in their childhood. Like their mother had that in their kitchen and they hated it. Or one other thing I learned too is not to ever express my opinion first. So like I'll go into a house, you know, when I'm meeting someone for the first time, I'm going to their house before I've ever met them or talked to them. So I'm showing up and I don't really know what I'm there for until I start talking. So sometimes I would go into a house and I'd be like, oh, that's so beautiful. And they're like, really? That's what we called you here for, to get rid of. Or I'd walk into a bathroom and I go, okay, yeah, you want to get rid of that orange tub or whatever it is. And they're like, no, we love it. We want to design around it. So, so I am pretty careful not to express my opinion before I understand what they're thinking.
Okay, it's Lois here. I wanted to go back to the listening, Melissa, because I think your point on listening is so important and it's diffused things for me so many times that I've actually added another layer to the listening, and that is to really give so much focus to that person that it's palpable to them. You just look at them and you listen so hard. And it's like you're hanging on their every word, and people immediately feel that and they kind of open up and blossom out a little bit. I think when I joined ASID, the slogan was to listen. Your best tool as an interior designer is your ear. And I think you've hit on a really good point that I see we're going on several different tangents from. And I wanted to add that one. If you can just engage your attention really strongly and focus it right on the person, so that if somebody streaked through the room, you wouldn't look up, you know, it's just like that. Doesn't matter, doorbell rings, nothing, you are focused on them. And then I find the deeper things come out and they really feel heard.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm gonna contradict what I'm about to say, but also after listening, not talking right away, because then it seems like you've just been waiting to talk and not listening. So, you know, give it a few minutes. It's okay. People do get uncomfortable. Like people who are waiting get uncomfortable, but the other party doesn't get uncomfortable. The other thing that I would like to add in is, like I said, I have a lot of couples. I make sure that I spend eye time with both of them, because I have noticed some coworkers or some other people, like let's say the conflict or the conversation is about money. A lot of times if it's a male-female couple, the person will focus mostly on the male, and then the female gets really offended, as they should. So I make sure that no matter what I'm talking about, I give equal eye time and listening and question time to both parties or whoever's involved.
Well, one of the things that I find that really works for me is I find that if I say, oh, I understand, that just is a flair for people because I don't understand. I can empathize, but I can't understand. So to take that, I've tried to take that completely out of my vocabulary that I understand and gone with, tell me more so I can understand better.
Yeah.
And, you know, that goes back to the listening and staying calm, but don't tell people that you know what they're going through, because you don't. Because even if it's the same situation, they're completely different people with different backgrounds.
Right.
So let them tell you what you need to know to understand their predicament.
Give me 1 second. I got to go let my dog out.
Those are some really strong words. I hear you. I think I'm going to start saying that. That might be very helpful.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if everybody else's experience, when you listen, like, do you ever just run out like, okay, I'm tired of listening. It's been an hour. You haven't really said anything. I'm tired. Like, do you ever experience that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've said something like, well, let's follow up with this tomorrow. I say something like, let me digest this and continue this conversation later so that we can both figure this out together, or something like that.
Yeah, I often try and get a step back from it and just be, you know, I want to call a couple people and find out, you know, more information about your issue, and then I will get back to it. And I give them a date and a time I'm going to return their call.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that you can't just placate someone and be like, I'm not taking their calls again. Yeah, you kind of have to. But that's my exit strategy, is to give them a date and a time where we're going to reconvene on this. And it may just be me going outside and screaming at the sky. But I like to have a professional exit strategy for it.
Yeah, I mean, and the biggest thing, honestly, is just to remember that none of this is personal to you. You know what I mean? If they're upset, it's not a personal attack on you. It has almost nothing to do with you. And it probably has nothing to do with the work that you did either. It could be some other issue in their life that is stressing them out, and you're there. So that's who they take it out on. So never take anything personally, because otherwise in this business, if you do, I mean, it would be impossible to get up every day.
I want to throw out something that actually has helped me as a customer service role. When I have somebody complaining on end about something, after a bit, you know, because while they're talking, I'll be like, well, what could I do as a solution? I have no idea. So I will ask them, what do you think would be a good solution to this problem? What would you find satisfactory? What could we do differently to help you with this? And I have found that people will tell me they'll get back to me on it. Or sometimes they do actually have a solution, but they just want to see if I come up with it, and I'll never be able to come up with it. So if they have, like, if they say, you know, I don't want to have to pay the restock fee for this return, then I'll say, well, I'll see what I can do for you. And that has helped. Sometimes I cannot do that, but sometimes, you know, depending on manufacturer or whatever, it is a specific problem, but sometimes that helps when I ask the customer to come up with a solution for client.
We
I
feel
also-
like we're at least looking into it for them. When you say that.
Yeah. And that's where I go with the, I'm sorry. Two very powerful words. It's not admitting guilt. It's not admitting liability. I'm sorry. And, you know, I'm going to try and fix this for you. I'm going to try and work with you to get this done. Powerful phrases that just kind of diffuse the oh, you're going to work with me. You know, it's like, you know, but I'm sorry can go a long way. It's like, I'm sorry. it's not an admission of guilt. It's having empathy for a fellow human being who's stressed.
Yeah.
And I think we're all raised where, you know, your mother says, go tell him you're sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, you know, but we were forced to make it an admission of guilt as children. But as adults, we need to realize it's just a recognition of other people's emotions and feelings. It's an emotional intelligence thing to be able to say, I'm sorry. So.
And it's not easy because again, you're taking it personally, but like there's two me's. There's, you know, I get into this like mode when I'm with clients. That's not me. I don't even remember that the outside world exists. I'm just with that person, taking care of their job or issues or whatever. And then as soon as I leave there, then I'm back to regular me. So I have a couple other tips. So I have found, like, I see lots of people and it's a complete full range. I see like the average person with the average house. And then I see, you know, a house that you would think, oh, these people would never afford a renovation. It's like messy and dirty or bad part of town or something. And then I see like, you know, the top 10% living on Skaneateles Lake with these huge houses. So I see them all. And what I have found is that the messiest, dirtiest, the clients with messiest, dirtiest homes are the most particular, which doesn't make sense, but they want everything more perfect than these people who are already living in a perfect house. So I just think that's like really interesting. So a lot of times people will go into these projects thinking, oh, this will be easy or it doesn't have to be perfect, or we can kind of get away with things, which it's just not. I just thought that was interesting, something that I've picked up over the past few years that I've noticed.
Alyssa, what I've noticed is that you can't guess what price range people are going to be in.
Right.
I had someone get very offended with me because she was in one of those, you know, IKEA clad homes, and she brought in a designer, and her idea was now she was going to seriously upgrade. And I was bringing her mid-range price things and she got offended. So now I go in with low, middle, high, and I'm really surprised, even if people are going with sort of the middle to low ticket, and there's something that they see in the high end that they just fall in love with, and you go, well, that's $2,500. They'll go, oh, yeah, but I love it. I'm going to get it anyway. So I've learned to not second guess, like you're saying, you can't judge them and you can't second guess what they're going to pay for things. I just always show low, middle, high.
Yeah.
And then if they keep going for the high one, decide they're not, you know, that's not where they want to go with the budget, then I say, okay, if it's all right with you, I won't bring the high end things anymore. I'll just stick with the middle range. But I never prejudge that anymore.
Yeah, that's very important. The way I personally have been working is I tell people, because this is really how I am. And then if they tell me otherwise, I'll start working that way. But I tell them I'm always err on the side of economical. So I figure we can make anything look beautiful. You don't have to have the most high end fixtures and finishes. You know, the lower end can look just as great depending on how we use it. And I think people just really appreciate that, you know, they may have $1 million to spend, but I'm not trying to spend it. And then they do usually end up going that way, but just so they know I'm not just trying to spend their money.
When you meet with a client, though, don't you ask them their budget and maybe a design board or some design ideas, so at least you can play off of that? If they give you IKEA examples, you know kind of what price range they're looking. But if they're giving you Henredon, then you know that you're dealing with a different client and budget. But shouldn't that be part of the questions too, is what kind of budget and maybe some examples of what you'd like to see in your home?
Yeah, that's one of the very first questions I ask is about budget. But to be honest with you, 90% of my people have no idea what the budget should be, what it could be, or anything.
Okay.
So
I find that's also a very flexible point. Of course, we go in and but they have to feel good value.
Right.
And yeah, that, you know, we're definitely not puffing up the price or ripping them off, that it's really good value. I think you've hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
And Melissa?
Something else I have noticed too, I have had, specifically last year, I had some very indecisive people. They just could not make up their mind, even on basic things on layout. I mean, we couldn't even get to the detail work, but just basic layout. And what helped me is I try to break things down to the very core reason why some people are acting or reacting in a certain manner. And for this one particular client, it was a kitchen remodel. And she couldn't decide whether she wanted to knock down a wall and take over the room next door, stay in the same footprint, or do a 2-foot addition on the back. Those are very different things. And no matter what, she could not make up her mind. We mocked up cardboard cutouts. We did drawings. I mean, I met with her twice a week for 3 months. And I couldn't get through to her. And what I would say is I said, well, how have you made these big life decisions before in the past? Back to, how did you decide to marry your husband? How did you decide to plan your wedding? What was the last big vacation you took, and what were the steps to make that decision? Was it budget based? Was it location? How it made you feel? All those kinds of things. And she went back and started to think how she makes decisions, and that helped her kind of put on a path to get to getting somewhere with this design work, because it was sucking every moment of time and energy from me. And what I have found though is that some people want to see every single choice available, and some people want to see only 3 choices. Too many choices is overwhelming. But what I have found with almost every single client I've ever worked with is they like something at first, they see other things, almost always circle back to the first decision. And I tell people that. I'll say, we can look at everything, but I put money on it that you're going to circle right back to this decision, and they always do. So lately I have been doing a lot more texting, so that I keep a record of what people's decisions are. So even if I call someone and talk to them on the phone or meet someone with in person, I will follow up with a text saying, I'm just recapping our conversation, text or email. I'm recapping our conversation. This was the decision. I'm going to move forward, blah, blah, blah. That way I have, a visual confirmation of that, because often people don't remember what they agree to. So I just find that helps. And then I save all those texts and emails in a file for the people, just in case I ever need it. Does anybody else have any tips or stories or questions?
I have a tip that I use a lot that I'd like to let you guys know about. When I'm working with clients, my really go-to when we're talking about design selections and what they want their space to look like, I always ask them how they want their space to feel. Because when we talk about our light, mediums, and darks, if we put, dark on the floor, we weight the room down. If we put it on the countertops, our weight moves around the space. So I really hone in on how they want the space to feel at the beginning, and then I pull that through the entire design process. So when we get to the selection process and, suddenly they fall in love with, a dark, or light material, I will then just explain to them how that material is going to make the space feel depending on the location of where we put it. So I really focus in on, the feeling of the placement of all those materials. And that really helps people to stay on track to what they want the space to feel like. and the end result. And that has really gotten to the end goal. And I've had successful projects that way.
I would never thought of that about the weight of the colors. I'm not an interior designer, so I'm not saying that to make myself look really ignorant. It's just now that you said that, I'm like, oh, maybe that's where I should start. But
I think a lot of, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think a lot of difficult clients tend to be people who don't want to relinquish control. And I've been designing for over 30 years, and I've had a lot of super high-end control freaks. And I find that what I've done is really try to get that level of trust where they actually try to stop controlling because they can't do it. And that's why they hire you, because they know they cannot do it. And they depend on you to get from the beginning to the end. And I found that just really being very clean in communicating with them really helps a lot. You know, like you said, draw up where the seams are, let them know what the end result is, have really clean drawings, have, even with carpet, show them where the seams are going to be, because those are the areas where expectations aren't met. And that's all about them being in control. You know, you show them 3 wallpapers, you know, let them pick it, and then I try to just move on. I don't let them waver, because you won't make money. I found you spend so much time going back and forth, your hours just start getting less and less.
Mhm.
So I think that really letting the control freak control you, but you actually turn it around and control them. That's what I've found.
Yeah, always like being in control in the background, but letting them think they're in control is
Exactly.
what is
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Like if someone were to say to me, I need to see everything, you know, I would say, well, you know, everything is sort of, you know, way out there. I'm here to hone in. We're going to have a concept and we're going to hone in on that. And that's why you need me, because I know how to hone it in. Because, you know, there's people that'll just go out there and they'll show you something that totally doesn't fit within the realm of the project. And you'll be like, I'm not, you know, and I will say to them, no, that's the wrong direction. We're staying on our path.
Yeah.
So I try to do that as much as possible, because I do think people who are, who know they can't do it and need your help are less difficult.
Yeah. The other, so going back to the one client I had who was super indecisive, she seriously couldn't make a decision to save her life. One trick too that I have learned that worked, it didn't quite work with her, but it's worked a lot in the past, is sort of take like mildly threatening to take the project away in a very subtle way, and just say, okay, well, maybe you're not ready to do a project, or why don't we revisit this in 6 months? Or, and then people are like, oh, what? Like, no, I want to get this done. And then they usually end up just following through with it. But sort of, you know, you want what you can't have. So, you know, if you have a client who is stalled or, you know, not making decisions, I found that sort of taking it away helps. Taking it away, not really.
I kind of get strict with a bad decision maker. I kind of get a little strict. And if they don't like that, then they're not my client, because, you know, how long can you go back? I would never spend 3 months doing drawings for someone or going back and forth because they wouldn't make a decision. You know, I think 3 months is too long, unless it's, you know, some other issue or some, I don't understand, you know, for me, that would be a key that's not my client.
Well, they had paid. They had paid.
Yeah.
Were they paying? They were paying for 3 months and not making a decision.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I find is doing a debrief after each conversation. I like to tell people, I am going to bullet point. Your responsibility is bullet point. And if we hit these targets, we can do it by this date or
Right.
this time. And like you said, first of all, it gives you documentation to go back to and say, no, you said you were supposed to have this to me by these dates. But after every call, if I just have that brief bullet point debriefing, the next time I call them, getting back to dealing with difficult people, I know what their triggers are because they're already there. And I know what compromises have worked in the past. So my conversations, I tend to, I keep those bullet points. So I know, oh, this worked with them last time. This didn't work. We can compromise here or not here. And it's really helpful. I just wanted to ask anyone, is anyone having connection issues? I have people that seem to be popping in and out, and I'm not sure if they're having issues with the software. If you could just drop a note in the text box, I'd be happy to help you.
So going back to that client who was, doing drawings for 3 months. I mean, sometimes it's best to know, when to just drop a client. It's okay,
Inspire them.
One client goes, another one's going to come up. There's no shortage of clients, at least where I am. So just not to beat yourself up for lost clients, I think is huge, because then you can carry that on into the next project. And that's sort of like where you have to leave your emotions at home about it. The other thing, so when you said you did a debriefing after, you've had a meeting, you said this is your homework or whatever. At the beginning of meetings, I try to set an agenda. So I'll say, okay, well, today's goals are to pick this, this, and this, review this, or we're going to sign the contract, or we're going to schedule this, whatever. I give them a little agenda so that they know what to expect, and it keeps us on track as well.
Set boundaries and stick with them.
Yep.
That's really important for dealing with any other human being, Right.
I have a question, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
I need help with something.
Okay.
A call just came through. That's why I popped out and back. A client that I did fire a couple of months ago, and she stuck me with $1,000 drape, ready-made, fully made, custom made, and sort of arranged the deposits made on things, and to pay off balances, and really was she's a bully, and she targeted me. There are those people, and you just have to let go. Okay. And she'd been my client for like 6 or 7 years, but she just kept getting worse. She just telephoned. Now I've got that $1,000 drape, $1,200 drape in the closet, Rubelli fabric, gorgeous, shower curtain height. So I can't use it for anybody, because nobody has a shower curtain except someone in a Victorian house like her. Then she's calling saying that the pillows that she bought from me probably 6 years ago, the velvet on one side, the texture, something about it, she wants me to do something about it. I don't want to deal with her again. She's lethal. What do I say for this callback? I used all your advice. I told her, it's really good to hear from her. She called just to see how I was doing, sucked me in that way. Mm-hmm. And then came with this, these pillows needed something. So I told her that I was on a Zoom call. Her call was important, so I took it, but I have to get back to the call right now. Can we talk at 6? So I use that, I'm listening to everything here. I just put it all to use. Get back to me at 6 and let's talk that through. But what do I say? Because I do not want to engage with her. and a velvet pillow that I've done repairs on. I would do free repairs on things. And if they need feather restuffing, I charge $25 a pillow. You know, I'm really, really fair with things that come back to me that I produced.
Recover them in that drape and charge her twice 2,000.
A good idea.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a designer, but I am evil. I have that evil mindset.
I'll have you in on that call to hear the screaming. She yells. She's a yeller.
No.
Oh.
So I'll let you in on the yelling bit that we have there. So Melissa, everybody, what do I say at 6 o'clock? Because I do not want to engage with this person.
So your goal really is to let this person go. You don't even want to try to recover your money or get new business. No.
I tried that for a couple of months to finish off the projects underway and recover. But I finally just said, my health and well-being is more important than $1,000, $1,200.
I definitely agree on that.
I wouldn't call it that.
We were talking about this before everyone joined in about people like that. We call them energy vampires because they literally pull your energy and your positivity out of you. I would,
yes, I call her a vampire.
as the administrator for ASID, I would recommend a non-ASID designer for her to work with because your schedule is too full.
Yeah, I mean, what I've done, I mean, there are some people I had one awful client. It is a local business person that everybody knows how difficult he is. I did one project for him and then we were going to do another. And it was just it's not only not profitable, but it's also like taxing on your mental state. And I think it's totally okay to say, you know what, Mary or whoever, sometimes it's just not a right fit. And I think our relationship has come to an end. Here's so-and-so, maybe here's a number of so-and-so, maybe they could help you out. And I wish you the best and everything. I definitely would not call them back because I think that's just going to get worse and worse. But it's almost like it's a breakup. You have to break up with her.
Well, I broke up with her. Now, like, how do I maintain that? I need a really good phrase, I think.
I mean, I think our
broken up.
I would say I think our professional relationship has come to an end. I wish you well in all of your endeavors.
I know she has friends who are interior designers that she doesn't use, but she smeared me, but good to them. I mean, it was really bad. And coming back to me and say, you know, who knows what part of the story she told them. But so she has designer friends. So maybe that's, could we include that? Could I include that? That, yeah, I mean, you have really good professional designer friends. I know I'm not going to leave you hanging. If I say I just can't do it.
I probably wouldn't do that because, I mean, maybe they don't want to work with them, but then you're also still involving yourself. You want a clean break. You do not want to be involved with this lady. So if you so I take that back because I did say recommend so-and-so, but if you recommend someone, you're still in a relationship with this person. So I literally would say, I would write her an email. I wouldn't even call her or what, however, does she email or text?
Actually, apparently I have her blocked on everything. So
she
called me.
So I guess you will be calling her back.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe write it out.
Respond to the email. So I think I do have to have a phone conversation. But.
Okay. Well, write it out or type it out and say, Mary, so-and-so, so glad to hear from you. I hope your health is well. I'm sorry, but I think our professional relationship has come to an end and I wish you well in your endeavors, and then move on because you do not want, this sounds like a toxic person that you just need to.
And
toxic.
And anytime they start pulling you back into, well, I just want to know who to contact for these pillows or whatever. Like, again, our professional relationship, you have all the receipts that I gave you in the beginning. I don't have this anymore. My schedule is, full and,
I mean, Google is available to everybody. She can figure something out. And I mean, the other trick when people really won't go away is saying something like, oh, I'm booked for like the next 26 months. Do you think you want to wait that long? But honestly, this lady is probably psycho. She'll call you in 26 months. I would just make a clean break.
Okay, let's do a round robin. Nikki, what would you tell this person when you called?
All I have running through my head is that Wayne's World scene where Stacy's trying to give Wayne a gun rack, and he goes, "Stacy, he broke up like 2 weeks ago. Move on."
Move on. How about you, Ronnie? How would you do it?
I would do exactly what Melissa said. I would say, I think our relationship has come to an end. You didn't pay me for the shower curtain, which I ordered, which I will not deliver without getting paid. And I have gone through the effort of fixing your pillows, and, you know, I have to end this relationship.
I mean, if the phone call isn't enough, honestly, I would probably actually send a physical letter.
Yeah, I think it's better to send, I was saying I would send probably an email and wouldn't call her.
Yeah.
Kevin, how would you do it from your perspective?
Well, if she, the going back to the velvet, I mean, I guess what ends it for me is the whole non-payment for something that was ordered. We're done.
Yeah.
I can't help you with velvet. If
Yeah.
if that wasn't an issue and it was just the velvet, I mean, velvet is a lower performance fabric. We all know that, right? I mean, I clean velvet, so I know, you know, you can't scrub it. You're gonna put a hole in it because it's a weaker weave. It's been cut. So, you know, you gotta, or flocked, even worse, right? So you gotta, you know, you gotta set expectations with that and say, you know, I can contact the manufacturer to soften the blow and see what they would say about that material. But if it's been used for 6 years, I mean, that's not that bad. But, you know, the overriding thing, of course, is the drapes. She didn't pay. We don't have a relationship. I'm sorry.
If someone doesn't pay,
I can't hold up mine.
I mean,
Yeah.
she just sounds like an entitled person that needs to be a little stern. You got to be stern with.
Okay, so I'm not calling people out. Anyone else have a advice for Lois?
I concur with Kevin and Ronnie. You know, I can't work on your pillows until I get the balance paid for the shower curtain. And when that's settled up, we can revisit the velvet idea. And if she does pay the balance on the shower curtain, break up with her and not do any work with her on the pillow.
she's a corner in my book.
I would still be trying to get payment for the shower curtain.
Yep.
Or on the bill of the pillows, I'll just add in a $1,200 line item.
I had a client this past year. I think they overextended themselves and they put a lot of their project on credit card, and they were kind of dodging me at the end when it was time to pay the final bill to me. And I just was persistent and left them a really nice voicemail telling them I wanted to catch up on the progress of their project. I hadn't heard from them. They didn't let me know that the glass was installed in the shower. And so in the end, they called me back and, they ended up paying me and sending me some after pictures. And, I think it gave them a chance to catch up. But, I think a lot of times people come up with their own reason as to why they're not paying a bill. And, so kind of getting down to trying to be the investigator and figure out, what's really going on here. But also having your own integrity that, you did that work, you set everything up, you deserve to get paid, and, figure out how to get it done.
I was going to ask Lois, do you have anything in a contract or written? Is there any way you can send a bill and follow up, even maybe in a small claims court or something of that nature? And if it becomes, I don't want to say litigious, but if you end up going that route, she's not going to want to work with you in the future anyway. But I would recommend just discussing with her that she has an outstanding balance. These are pillows that were well used for 6 years. There's no guarantee on